Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We've got a massively packed program for you with two guest speakers, so we're really happy to have two guest speakers here today. So just to show you what we're going to talk about, Dr. Jay is going to talk about his experience of being at Harrow. He's an alumni, and studying medicine and practicing medicine in the UK. Then I will give you some key information. Then we've got Dr. Whiting talking to you about the qualities that is needed to become a doctor and making a strong application. And then I will briefly look at applications in the UK, in Thailand and in Australia. And then we've got another guest speaker to talk to you about applying to Ireland for studying medicine. And then just finishing off with some links that may be useful for you. But let me pass over to Dr. Whiting first.
Morning everyone, thank you very much for coming along. So I would just like to introduce Dr. Jay first of all, who left Harrow in 2011. And he's going to be talking about his experience of being a medical student and a practicing doctor. So he studied in Scotland, and he's previously been into Harrow this year to talk to our Year 12 students about his journey through medical school and his experiences of practicing as a doctor. And yeah, it was very interesting for them because it really does resonate for them when they can see somebody who has successfully negotiated and completed that journey, and they can hear about that sort of first-hand experience, and it really demonstrates what is possible. So we're really pleased to welcome him back to be able to talk to you as well today. So over to Dr. Jay.
Do I press? It's just this one. Hi, good morning everyone. My name's Jay. I was here in Harrow between 2005 to 2011, and then I decided to study medicine, and then with the help and support of the Harrow staff, my parents, I was able to get there, but it was not an easy journey. It was very difficult, but I'm going to share a little bit about my journey, I'll break down the sort of different key stages of medical school and being a doctor, and what a typical week might look like for students and doctors, and also about the realities of being a doctor in the UK, because being a doctor anywhere is not easy, and certainly not in the UK. So what are they looking for in terms of academic achievement? You obviously need quite a high academic level of achievement, 3As to 3A stars. At A level, I think a lot of the university websites will quote at least 3As at A level, and then a minimum of 7 to 8 A's and A stars at GCSE level. And also a UCAT score. Does anyone know what UCAT score is? No? So UCAT score is an exam that tests lots of different things, including math skills, English skills, and abstract thinking skills. And this is done in the year of application, the year prior to application. And also an English proficiency of IELTS of 7 or higher. Now, this is even before you get to this is a screening process for medical schools, because if you can imagine, they'll take perhaps 1,000 student applicants, and they have to narrow them down to 100. So this is a way for them to weed out any other applications that don't make that standard, even before you get to the interview process or the personal statement process. So what are they looking for after we get through that first door? They're asking for what is being a medical student like, what is being a doctor like. So students need to have a good understanding of what being a doctor is like, good understanding of the NHS, the healthcare service, current events, medical breakthroughs. Those are the kind of things that are asked at interviews. They're also looking for some kind of work experience in their school years, perhaps year 11, 12. And what I did was I worked at Red Cross for about 6 months. Every Saturday I just went in and volunteered. And I also went into hospitals for a couple of weeks, saw some interesting things and things to talk about. But probably some of the most important things are the drive, the passion to be a doctor, and it certainly needs to come from the students and perhaps not being pushed from externally. A drive to help people, and probably the most important thing of being a doctor is to be a good communicator. So that's me in Harrow in 2006 and 2011. On the picture on the left was me heading off to getting my work experience thing at Red Cross. And on the right, that's me painting a library in a charity project that we did, which we raised, I think, about almost ₦1 million to help communities in the north of Thailand. So in universities, I'll break it down to preclinical and clinical learning. So in St Andrews, I did what is called as preclinical learning, so mostly lectures. And then at Manchester, I did 3 years of what's called clinical learning, which I'll break down a typical week for you. So preclinical learning is very similar to most other undergraduate university courses, where it's made up of mainly lectures. So usually there'll be a lecture or two every day. And then for every other Tuesday, there'll be a clinical placement where I'll get sent to a GP practice or hospital, and I spend a day with them on the ward. There's also dissection, there's also tutorials where in small groups where we go over things that have been taught at lectures. I was able to, if you're worried about the workload in medical schools, I was able to enjoy my social life and also have a part-time job working at a Thai restaurant in Scotland from sort of 5 to 11 p.m. twice a week, maybe 3 times a week, and still managed my academic achievements. Clinical, so that's the first 3 years of medical school generally, and this is the latter 3 years of medical school. You're let out onto the ward. You are attached to a ward for 4 to 6 weeks. And for example, if it was a surgical ward, then you might go to operating theatre once a week. You might go to a clinic where you sit in with the doctor while they see their patients. Then you get asked questions. You might get an opportunity to speak to patients. But most of the time, it's you're kind of left to your own devices, and you need a lot of self-studying. So a lot of studying in the library by myself or with friends. But yeah, having said all that, I managed to get a lot out of university, not just the medical training. I made friends. I got to explore Scotland. I was a part of a society. So university and medical school is certainly not just about learning medicine. It's about exploring what you want to be, what you want to do, making friends, exploring your other interests in life. And that was me graduating from med school, and that's me and my mum at my first day of work in Glasgow, which is why I sound like this. So that's on the left is the Glasgow Royal Infirmary. And I've worked in Glasgow for a total of 5 years, the first 2 years in this hospital. So after you've graduated, you work in what's called foundation year, 2 foundation years. where you're placed in a specialty for 4 months at a time. So 4 months for 2 years, every 4 months you rotate on to a different specialty. And then you're working as a doctor, but you're also getting training. It's slightly more in depth compared to medical school, getting to do more things compared to medical school. So a typical work week as a junior doctor. So I'll come in at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, and me and the whole team will do a ward round, every day, except the days I'm operating. And then perhaps after ward round, I'll stay on the ward, finish any task that I need to complete for the patients, and then in the afternoon maybe do a clinic. Usually once a week or once a month, there'll be an educational event where they'll take all the junior doctors within that specialty and come together and do some educational stuff. The weekend is usually mine, and I get to do my social stuff. This is another example of what is a resident on-call week. So a resident on-call week, usually in UK, you're either doing Monday to Thursday or Friday to Sunday, either day shift or night shift, and that's 12 hours, 12 to 13 hours. So on the resident on-call days, I'll be in at 8 o'clock, and I'll see patients that are new to the ward. So new patients that have come into emergency room, new patients for example, if they needed surgery, me and my seniors will be the one operating on them. Anything that was emergency, anything that was relevant to emergent stuff. So that goes on from 8 o'clock till 8:30, 9 o'clock in the evening. And usually I get a 3-day weekend, and then that cycle repeats. Again, work, and life is not all about work. At the weekends, I still get to go on my hike with my dog, and I play golf with my friends. What makes a good doctor? A high academic achievement, a knowledge of the actual content of medicine is obviously very important, and that's the key stuff that people need to become a good doctor. But what are the other human qualities that we need? You need to enjoy working with people. You need to be a good communicator. You need to work within a team. When I was working, I was perhaps a most junior member of the team, the middle grade member of the team. I'm always having to communicate with the juniors and the seniors, communicate with nurses, cleaners. Literally everyone in the hospital is your teammate, is your co-worker. You also have to be able to lead a team, become a good leader. You need to enjoy problem solving, and the most important thing perhaps that people don't tell you when you go into medical school is that it doesn't stop at medical school. Once you finish your 5 years in medical school, there's another 10 years of training, especially in the UK, where you're constantly being pushed to perform at a high level, and you're having to do exams. So I'm just going to ask a question to everyone here. If you didn't get paid to do your job, would you still do it? Parents? If you were not, okay, if money was not an issue and you could just do whatever you want, would you still do the jobs that you currently have? I think teachers would. Most of them. I certainly would, and I certainly have. There are hours and hours and hours that I've stayed past the time that I needed to stay. So for example, if someone needed surgery at 10 p.m. at night and if my shift finished at 9, I'm going to stay and do that surgery because I enjoy it. or I'll come in on a Saturday and do some extra cases. It's being a doctor is about being passionate about doing the thing that you want to do, being good at it, and enjoying helping people. And definitely not about the money, but it certainly helps. I don't know if you can see this very clearly. So the first tab is medical school. So that takes, so this is a timeline. The first bit is medical school, takes between 5 and 6 years, depending on university. And then you get foundation training, which takes 2 years. And then this is where things kind of branch off. So if someone wants to become a GP, that would take an extra 3 years. And then if I want, so I'm a surgeon, I'm at the stage of core training. For surgery, core training takes 2 years, and then I have to go on to apply for another specialty training, high special training. For example, what kind of surgery I'm doing, and that's another 6 years before I get to become a consultant. So it's after you finish your medical school, it's 10 years before you finish your training, which is different to Thailand. Thailand's much shorter. Does anyone have any questions about this slide? I feel there's a lot of chat there. No? Okay. So the realities of being a doctor. It's great fun. It's a great professional pursuit, academic pursuit. You work with people who are also passionate about being there. It's a great community, and you get to meet and help people. And the feeling you get when you help people is really good. You know, your patients are very thankful, usually. The hours are generally pretty long, 12, 14 hours days on your on-call weeks. There's a lot of pressure to perform. Mistakes will certainly cost lives, and I certainly have made some. There's a lot of bureaucracy around the NHS and how the money gets spent and funding and things like that, but I won't get into that too much. Contrary to belief, it's not well paid, not in UK. There's a lot of and also a lot of competition for training. So this is an article from last July. So the junior doctors, so in that 10-year stage, we're called junior doctors, in UK have gone on strike. So I think if your children want to pursue this career, they have to be aware that, you know, it's not the pay that they go in for, because it's not going to be paid well. So the final message. I absolutely, absolutely love being a doctor, and I would encourage anyone who have that passion to go in to pursue being a doctor. But if you don't really love it, if you don't really enjoy it, it's gonna be difficult, and they're not gonna love it. And when I was in Harrow, when I told my parents I wanted to be a doctor, they said, "Why? Don't be a doctor. It's hard work." They said, go into banking like we did, make a lot of money. And I said, absolutely not. I wanted to be a doctor, and I certainly pursued that dream. So encourage the passion and turn it into a career. Thank you very much. That's my email if you feel free to email me with any questions. I'm more than happy to answer that email.
Yeah, we can certainly take questions at the end of the session as well. Would you like to pose a question now?
Yeah. Hi.
After finishing the medical school in UK, you have what kind of option you have to work in countries like UK or in other countries like Australia or Thailand or Singapore?
So after finishing medical school, my recommendation is to finish the 2 foundation years. That opens more doors compared to just finishing medical school. because after you finish the 2 years in medical school, you get your so the first year in foundation you get kind of a provisional license for 1 year, and then for the second year you get your proper license, and then that allows you to work at a sort of not the most junior level but sort of a middle level, anywhere in UK, in Australia, New Zealand, maybe Singapore, and maybe Canada. If they want to come back to Thailand, they would have to take the Thai exam, which is really hard and there's a lot of it. I'm not doing it. A lot of my friends are doing it, and it's basically having to take all the medical school exams again. In the US, you would have to take their exams as well. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, great. Thank you. Oh,
Yeah.
What's the, to be a doctor, what would be the advantage of being a doctor in UK comparing to being a doctor in Thailand?
In Thailand.
If my son wished to work in Thailand.
If your son wishes to work in Thailand, first of all, I think it's where does he want to live? You know, it's certainly about where you are. So I don't want to live in Thailand. I want to live in UK for the weather. In west of Scotland for the weather. So the training, during the training in UK, it is longer, but the work is not as hard. So, for example, in Thailand, you're expected to stay in the hospital on your on call, like all the time. You have no holidays, right? You're basically going to be working 80, 100 hours a week in Thailand during your training. And you're probably going to be paid less during your training. In UK, when your shift finishes, you're done. You go home. In your first year, you already get 6 weeks of holiday automatically as a European country. Yeah.
Second question, about the expense. If we study in UK, what I estimate is around, for 10 years, let's say around 6,000 pounds, 60,000 pounds per year. For 10 years would be around
So,
600 pounds.
I estimated when I went was probably around 400,000 for 7 years.
Say for 400,000.
So
Comparing to all through the curriculum in Thailand, it's only around 80,000 pounds.
it's certainly an investment.
That's expensive.
I think it's what your son wants to do and what I think it's what he wants to do and what you're able to provide, right? If you can provide, then give them the choice.
So it's far better.
Sorry?
You get far better life in UK.
I mean, if you're a private doctor in Thailand, you're making millions and millions, but the NHS doesn't pay that. But you know, I can't say what they would want, you know, and it's a journey that takes 10 years. Who knows? Who knows what they want in 10 years? Thank you. Sorry, it took a bit long.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Finding it that wonderful. Right. Okay. So we've heard a lot there about why study medicine and about the journey through medical school and beyond. And so what I'm going to do is just come back to a little bit earlier in the journey and focus on students here at Harrow at school. And I'm aware that for many of you, you've got your son or daughter at different points in their education, so maybe year 9, year 10, year 11, year 12. But one of the things that we should point out, already you know that it's academically rigorous, so students need to be academic achievers, and that needs to be evident at GCSE. And then when it comes to selecting subject choices at A-level, chemistry is an absolute, often typically as well biology. Most of our students study maths as well as a third A-level. Those are the subjects that the students must select and combine in order to meet the entry requirements for different medical schools. I can talk about the UK, so there's no specific requirement to study 4 subjects, although often if students are applying for Oxbridge, they will be studying the 4 subjects. But for UK medical schools, 3 subjects are sufficient, although many of our students here at Harrow will be studying 4 subjects. Okay? But what can be useful for students to build up a picture of if they're interested in studying medicine is just looking at different medical schools in different countries, what their entry requirements are, and perhaps picking up on any differences that there might be there. But there's no reason why students can't also study a contrasting subject as their third A-level. So just to take you through a little bit of the journey, if we focus on students' time at school. So obviously we've got a number of students busy taking GCSE exams at the moment, and they'll be hopefully undertaking work experience that's medically related if they're in year 11 and they want to study medicine. We've also got our year 12 students busy taking exams at the moment. And it's during that school time from year 11 through to year 12, year to 13, it's a really important time to gain that work experience, okay? Because that gives you valuable insights and first-hand experiences for the students to talk about in their personal statements, in their portfolios, in their interviews. So really important that they secure that work experience, and if possible, in different sorts of environments, different types of work experience. Now, what they will also need to do is, particularly if they're applying to the UK, but also some of the Thai medical schools, and this information is being updated all the time, is to sit an aptitude test. And for the UK medical schools and for some of the Thai medical schools, that is the UCAT, okay? Now, we have been supporting our students in year 12 to become more familiar with the test requirements and the types of students, types of questions. But what we would recommend for students is that they complete this UCAT test in the summer between year 12 and 13. So once they've finished their AS exams and they finish their Next Steps programme, is that they use that summer holiday as an immersive experience to prepare themselves to sit the UCAT test, and that they hopefully try to do that at the end of the summer, so that when they come back in year 13, they can really focus on their A-level studies, and there's no competition between sort of A-level studies, supercurricular and extracurricular activities, and then also trying to prepare for the UCAT. So that's just something to be aware of, is that aptitude tests do play an important role in medical schools selecting which students that they will invite for interview. Now, obviously, a student needs to refine which medical schools they would like to apply to, and that will sometimes be shaped by their results in aptitude tests, okay? Because different medical schools will attach different weights on the results of the aptitude tests. And of course, at the beginning of year 13, that's what they're doing. They're refining where they want to apply, and then they're going through the process of putting forward that application depending on which country they're applying to. So it might well be writing personal statements, putting portfolios together, and so that's quite a significant undertaking. And I guess it's important that students and parents know as well, is that there's a lot of work involved in applying for medicine and putting forward a strong application. But as we say, students will embrace that, because if they are committed and keen to study medicine, they know that it's a lifelong commitment, a commitment to learning, and that there will be hard work involved. Some of you might be familiar with the BMAT, which is another aptitude test, but that's no longer applicable. So students won't be sitting that anymore. So I just want to sort of make that point. So a lot of some UK medical schools, and certainly some of the Thai medical schools, have had to change their sort of how they select their students for interview, and the aptitude test that they're using. So that just gives you some context. And then hopefully students will be invited to attend an interview, and that will determine whether they're successful in securing a place or not. So there's a lot going on through year 11, year 12, year 13. It's a busy time, right? And students need to be proactive, they need to be independent, they need to be organised, and they need to follow the advice that they get from their university counsellors and their teachers. Just to make you aware of key dates, and I guess this is primarily more for parents of Year 12 students, but the registration for the UCAT test opens on the 14th of May, but students can't actually book their test dates until the 18th of June. Now there's 4 test centres in and around Bangkok, and like I said, we encourage the students to try and complete that aptitude test in the summer, so they can have that immersive experience to prepare. And so it's worthwhile them thinking in advance of the booking date, which test centre do they want to book, and what date, what time, okay? So that when the booking opens, they can go straight in and they can hopefully get their preferred location and test slot. So Jay talked very much about, what makes a good doctor, about the sort of realities of being a medical student and practicing as a clinician. And so I'm going to talk about the sort of above and beyond work that the student needs to do in order to support a strong application to medical school. All of these different activities are really important in the student building up a knowledge of what it's like to be a medical student, to be a doctor. To not only understand the rewards, the privilege that it is to treat patients, to understand about the different roles that a doctor has, the different specialities and sort of disciplines, but also to have a good understanding of the realities of how academically rigorous it is, of the commitment required, of the challenges, so that they can truly make an informed decision that medicine is the right career path for them because of the commitment involved. And of course, once they've made that decision that they do want to pursue medicine, all of these different types of activities are so important in putting forward that strong application and in preparing the student for the interview experience. Students can't cram and prepare for an interview in the sort of 2 or 3 weeks beforehand. What they're doing is refining then. All of their interview preparation takes place over the journey, the 2-3 years journey of deciding on medicine and collecting all of those different experiences and putting their application together. So work experience is really important for helping them understand about the realities and seeing what it's like shadowing clinicians and different healthcare teams and building up a picture of the different disciplines and the sort of day-to-day life of being a doctor. And the medical schools, they do attach quite a lot of weight to that. They value that very much because it really is evidence that the student is knowledgeable about medicine and they're really committed. And it also shows them how reflective they are when they're talking about their work experience and what they've seen. Now, in Year 12 and 13, as part of our super-curricular offering, we offer a medics course and the Harrow Research Project as well. If students are looking to study medicine, we'd expect them to enrol on these courses. And the Harrow Research Project gives students an opportunity to develop their understanding in an area that they're really passionate about. So the idea is that they devise this evaluative inquiry question and they carry out their own research. They think critically, they're using peer-reviewed scientific papers, they're writing an evaluative written report, they're producing vlogs about their process, and they're presenting on it. And we've had some phenomenal reports and presentations this year, and it develops so many skills that will support them in higher education and that medical schools are looking for. Obviously, supercurricular activities, so anything that goes above and beyond specifications and which is related to the career intention. So this might be perhaps watching some online lectures that medical schools will offer to aspiring medical students. I know that in particular in the UK, UCL and Imperial, they have their own programme of lectures that they provide to A-level students that you can watch live or after the event. It's important, obviously, to be aware of topical health stories and the different healthcare systems, and particularly for the countries that the student will be applying to. Now, wider reading and research, right? Again, it's about building up knowledge and expertise about the medical profession, right? And all of these different above and beyond experiences, what they hopefully allow the student to do is to really stand out for all of the right reasons, and they provide the student with very specific examples that they can refer to about their journey to medical school, right? And opportunities to reflect, and that's what the medical schools are looking for, right? This is how students can differentiate between other students. So it might be popular medical books. It could be peer-reviewed scientific articles, TED Talks, okay? And equally, really quality documentaries and podcasts can be so important in developing students' interest in different areas. Voluntary work is important, and we encourage students to get involved in the community, both here in Harrow and also outside in their local communities. We've got lots of opportunities for students to work as part of teams within the school environment, to adopt leadership positions with responsibilities, such as in the house system. And so we want students to sort of be proactive, to embrace these opportunities so that they can develop so many of those key skills like communication and teamwork that the medical schools are looking for. A number of my Year 12 students have done some really fascinating, really interesting university workshops. And it's lovely to hear what they've been doing, some of the practical techniques that they've been able to use. So looking out for those opportunities. There are also courses that are freely available on lots of different subject areas, and these are known as MOOCs, Massive Open Online Content courses. And they are a fantastic way of the student demonstrating their sort of academic motivation, their desire to undertake research, their commitment, because that plays a big part of the portfolio. And so it might be that maybe if a student did a particular project in their Harrow Research Project and they decided that they wanted to maybe develop their knowledge of immunology further, they could undertake a MOOC on that topic. And all the time what they're doing is they're showing sort of evidence of impact and how they continue to develop their knowledge and their understanding. And of course, make the most of contacts, right? Friends and family, anyone that has healthcare experience, to find out more about the realities of working in healthcare systems, you know, interviewing them and so forth. So I won't talk too much about this because it's been mentioned before, but all of those supercurricular activities are going to help the students in developing their knowledge of how these are important in medicine, but also how they can develop some of these skills and qualities themselves. Because at interview, for example, they need to talk about the importance of teamwork or talk about the importance of empathy. And it's great if they can include examples from their work experience or their voluntary work where they can talk about a specific situation, the actions that were taken and the result that came about it. But equally, they need to talk about, well, how have they shown professionalism? How have they shown compassion? How have they demonstrated leadership? Because what the medical schools are looking for is the potential to be a successful medical student and evidence of working on and developing these qualities. So it's not just about how these are important in the medical context, but also how the students have developed them themselves. And so all of these different activities will help them to be able to talk about and develop these, okay? As well as helping them then put together the portfolio and to be able to talk confidently at interviews. So this is just a summary of how we support aspiring medical students at Harrow. We also include interview preparation, right? So that takes place in the medics program, but we do a mock MMI as well. Obviously alumni talks, so Jay came to speak to our Year 12s earlier in the year. We have our Oxbridge program, and very important, we've got an oracy focus in the school, and it's really important to encourage students to take opportunities to articulate their knowledge, their understanding, their opinions, okay, what they think. Because ultimately, communication is so important for being a medical student and a doctor. And it's going to support them preparing for their applications and for the interview experience. So this is a really valuable way in which you can help, is just engaging in conversation with your son or daughter about the sorts of things that they might have been doing that's super curricular, about their ideas and opinions about different topics. Because like I say, the best interview preparation is taking place over the course of 2 or 3 years. So I will now hand over so that you can find out a little bit more about applying to different places for medicine. So, okay, let me give you, there we go.
Okay, so thank you very much for the speakers so far. Let me just talk you now through the sort of more intricate details about applying to the UK, to Thailand and to Australia. So I've picked out these 3, and then we've also got Ireland. Just to reiterate, UK, it could be a 5 or a 6 year program of actually studying to become a doctor. Students need to apply by the 15th of October in year 13. So they've got a slightly earlier deadline, and they can select 4 different medical schools that they apply to. So NUCAS, that's the way they can apply to a UK university. They've got 5 choices, and 4 of these can be to a medical school. The 5th one is sort of a backup in a biochemistry or biomedical area. We already said required a really high academic standards, so A-levels, GCSEs. We've talked about UCAT interviews and MMIs. So MMIs are multiple interviews where a student goes around different stations and is timed and has like little mini interviews. What I wanted to emphasize about the UK is that there is a quota for international students. So each medical school can only have a set number of students from international areas that they can take, and that's currently 7.5% of their overall intake can be for international students. So it's really, really competitive. So I've just looked at one, for example, for Edinburgh. They have only 3% of their overall places in the end go to international students. So it's really, really tough getting in. But actually this year we had someone being accepted to St Andrews as well. He's deciding to stay in Thailand though. So yeah. But each year this changes the number of places that are available for international students. So I've just put in a link there, and we'll share the presentation with you as well, where you can check how many places has a university got for international students. Applying to Australia, it's also 5 years of study. Students apply directly to the university. Generally, they start applying in March of year 13. So quite a lot of our students who also apply to the UK may also apply to Australia. Again, it's sort of the same requirements. The difference is that the Australians have got a different test they're using. they're using something called ISAT and not UCAT. It's in essence the same, testing the same types of skills. And there are 4 different testing windows throughout the year. So they're testing similar skills, it's just the administration is a little bit different. And applying to Thailand, it's generally 6 years of study. Again, students apply directly to the university with the same sort of material that they're required in the UK and Australia. Just in addition, most students also required to have a portfolio. And each university will specify in detail what the portfolio should contain. So that could be a write-up of the work experience, that could be your transcript, that could be the skills that you've gained. But each university will be very particular what they want, and that changes from year to year as well. One thing to point out is that if students are applying to more than one medical school in Thailand, the interviews could be on the same day. So students need to decide before they go to an interview which university they want to then proceed with. I know it seems quite unfair, but they're doing this on purpose so that students have to decide which medical school they want to attend. And we've got, I would say, most of our students probably for medicine apply to Thailand. There's usually about 5-6 per year applying to the UK, and about 2-3 applying to Australia. And then we also had 1 applying to Ireland as well this year. That's why I've got Seamus in to talk a little bit about Irish medical schools. And I will swap this over and then load your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elke and Sam. Appreciate the opportunity to speak today. So hello everyone, my name is Seamus McHugh, representing Irish universities, Irish medical schools. So I'll be talking obviously about Ireland. I think there was a very good summary there for each country. I might just start off there, in fact, to summarise in terms of applying. So also in Ireland, we have 5 years of study. So you can go from A-levels into direct entry medicine, where students will study for 5 years for a Bachelor in Medicine, Surgery and Obstetrics. Our application window is from September to January. So the UK, I believe, is October, and Ireland is January the 15th is our deadline. Now, one of the advantages, you might call it, of Ireland is we don't require a separate admissions test. So the standards are very high. You do need to have 3 A's, minimum of 3 A's with chemistry and biology, but there's no separate medical admissions test. So UCAT is not required, BMAT is not required, or the Australian exam. So the main academic focus would be the A-levels for your kids. Okay, so within my consortium, there are 4 universities in Ireland, the Republic of Ireland. Trinity College Dublin, UCC, University College Cork, UCD, University College Dublin, and University of Galway. I wasn't here in 2011 to talk to Dr. J about Irish universities. I might have convinced him to go to Ireland. But essentially, students can apply to the UK and other countries and also have 4 options with IUMC. So it allows students an application pathway to 4 universities. You select the universities you want to apply to. You can apply to 1, of course, 2, 3, or all 4. So it's completely up to the students. I'm Irish myself, but I do live in Bangkok. So this will be a short introduction today. Actually, I better look at my time so I don't go on for too long. But this will be a short introduction. But just please know that I'm here in Bangkok. And we are the official representatives of the consortium. So all of our services to students and parents are free. We support students with consultations, applications, interview prep, accommodation, immigration. So right from initial inquiry to application, interview, and enrollment. We are with the families in Thailand to support them with everything. We're at RSU Towers, Sukhumvit Samsibet, Sukhumvit 31 in Bangkok. So you're more than welcome to visit us. Ireland. Okay, so where is Ireland? Just to point out, I'm biased, but we are the very beautiful country to the west of the UK. So UCAS was mentioned by Sam and Elk. UCAS would be the application system for the UK, for England, Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland. So the UK is 4 countries, and Northern Ireland would be a part of UCAS. So when I'm talking about Ireland, I'm talking about Southern Ireland, Republic. Dublin, Cork, and Galway are our 3 major cities. It's about 15 hours from Bangkok to get to Ireland. Shorter to get to the UK just because there's a direct flight. But it's only about 1 hour from Dublin to London, for example. Has anyone been to Ireland before? No? Dr. J? Some great golf in Ireland, right? You like the golf. Okay, so I have a short video. I won't play that. We won't have enough time. Okay, so just some key things about why Ireland in general. And I do want to emphasize the quality and standards in Ireland, because I know Ireland might be new to you as a destination, but we have some of the best universities in Europe. In fact, all of our universities were established by the British. Ireland was occupied by the British for 800 years. We got our independence 100 years ago, but all of our universities are much older than that. Trinity College Dublin, for example, is nearly 450 years old. So the QS rankings, our 4 universities are top 100 in the world, top 200 in the world, and top 300 in the world. So excellent standards. We're certainly not perfect, but we are the 3rd most peaceful country in the world. So it's generally safe in Ireland for students, and I know that's very important for parents, of course. English speaking, I hope you can understand my accent. I do speak English, and Thai a little bit. Scottish, I have a very strong accent as well, of course. But we are English speaking. We have another language, Irish, like the Scots, of course, and the Welsh will have another language, but nobody really speaks our local language anymore. So inside the universities, students learn in English, and outside the universities, it's in English. The economy, obviously, we're one of the richest countries now in Europe. In fact, the transformation in Ireland has been amazing. We've went from one of the poorest countries in Europe to now one of the richest countries in Europe. Diversity, multicultural learning environment for students. I did see mentioned for the UK 7.5% international. So I'm not sure if you can see that, but 30 to 40% of students are international on our medicine programs. So certainly it's competitive. Ireland is difficult to get into as well, but we do have some extra places for international students. So if students are presenting with a strong academic background and CV and work experience, it is likely that they'll get an interview. And then at the interview, obviously, you know, it's down to the student to show that passion, that motivation to become a doctor. Dr. J pointed to that it really needs to come from the student, that they need to be passionate about becoming a doctor. It can't be the parents pushing them into it. They need to see that passion. So we have students from all over the world. We have Thai students. The Irish medical schools are recognized in Thailand as well, and we have Thai students that study in Ireland, and I know some Thai doctors that are currently in Samiti Wade Hospital. That's where we are. I'll flick through some of this. Dublin City. Our main cities are Dublin City, Cork City, and Galway City. So you might be able to see that, but they talk about safety, friendliness, welcoming, cultural cities. So I think students and student cities. Students really get on well in our cities, on our campuses in Ireland. So the key reasons why a student might study medicine in Ireland, world-class medical education. So again, I think it's very important to point this out. If you're traveling thousands of miles away, you want to get into a medical school that's recognized globally. So Irish universities, Irish medical degrees are recognized all over the world. So students from all nationalities that come to Ireland and study medicine have the opportunity to work in Ireland as a doctor, but many students will apply, in fact, to the NHS also, to the Foundation 1 and 2 in the NHS. Many students will go to America, they'll do their USMLEs and study in America. So I think you asked a question about what happens after medical schools, what are the options? And that's one of our strengths in Ireland. Irish medical schools are connected all over the world. We've 30 to 40% international students, so many of them want to stay in Ireland, of course, but many of them are thinking America, Australia, the UK, back to Asia. So because of the amount of international students we have and the quality of our degree, the options are many for students. We have 5-year degrees as well, so I think that was another question. So there is a 6-year program as well, but if you're a student, if your kids are taking chemistry and biology and they have A's, they will get into a 5-year program. There is a 6-year program as well, but mostly 5 years. Modern integrated curriculum with a strong clinical focus. So in Ireland, students will nearly spend a full 3 years in a clinical environment. So again, Dr. J mentioned preclinical and clinical years. Preclinical meaning you have lectures, labs, where you will cover the more scientific knowledge of medicine. But in Ireland, we have an integrated curriculum. So, of course, in the first few years, you will spend most of the time in the universities, but you will have an introduction to patients from an early stage. Students will get to see patients, they'll have clinical skills, and then they'll gradually move away from the university into the clinical placements, into the affiliated hospitals. So every medical school in Ireland has at least 10 affiliated hospitals. So most of year 3, most of year 4, most of year 5 is spent in the teaching hospitals. So students will do rotations in medicine, surgery, obstetrics and gynecology, psychiatry, pediatrics, moving through the core disciplines of medicine. So there's strong emphasis on small groups in Ireland, small group learning, bedside teaching, and getting students in front of patients as much as possible. Global career opportunities and clinical electives. So again, our medical schools are connected all over the world. And this just gives an example of the countries we collaborate with. So we have 140 collaborating countries. So actually, during the program in Ireland, you can, in year 3, for example, you can go to America, to Canada, during the summer and do what's called clinical electives. So they might be 4 to 8 week elective programs where you can experience a different healthcare system. UK, in fact, you can go to the UK as well. Mentorship and support. So I think this is, an important one. In Ireland, we're very famous for the amount of support students get. So specifically medical and dental students, in fact. Students get a huge amount of support from both the academic side, the counselling side, mentorship. Every student in an Irish medical school is assigned an academic mentor from year 1. So the success rate for students is well above 98%. So it's difficult to get into the medicine program, but once students actually get onto the program, the success rates are very, very high. So in some of our medical schools, in fact, it's over 99%. Okay, so I think I'll fly through this. This is just an example of what a campus looks like. Your children in Ireland most likely would stay on campus. For first year, would stay on campus, and then the medical school is a 5-minute walk from university. This particular university is UCC, University College Cork, but all of our universities are kind of this type where you're living on campus. You can walk to the medical school. They're very, very safe. Clubs, societies. And I just wanted to talk a little bit more about this slide, which came up in in actually all the presentations. So this is a 5-year medicine program. And then post-graduation, in the UK it was mentioned that it's 2 years. It's called a foundation in the UK, so Foundation 1 and Foundation 2. In Ireland we have 5-year medicine, and then we have an internship. Now it's just a different word, but essentially it's the same thing. But in Ireland it's only 1 year. It's not 2 years. In the UK it's 2 years, in Ireland it's 1 year. So 5-year medicine and then 1 year internship. So the tuition fee is, of course, required for 5 years. And then when you move into your internship, you are a doctor. You start your registration at that point, but in fact, you're getting paid a salary from the foundation year. So 5 years medicine, and then from the medical intern you're getting paid a salary. I believe the foundations, you get paid for the foundation in the UK as well. Yeah, you're getting paid as well. Yeah. Yeah, in fact, I think that was a point. In fact, I think the salaries in Ireland are a bit higher than the UK. So I believe so. Anyways, that's my understanding of it. Yeah.
Definitely better than English.
Yeah, I think it's a bit better in Ireland. So I think and the fees again was a question when asked. I suppose to convert it to Thai baht, you're talking on average about 2 million. 1.9 to 2 million Thai baht per year for 5 years. So, roughly speaking, that's about 10 million Thai baht over the 5-year program. And then they move into their internship, and then they're getting paid. And then in Ireland, again, it's very similar. So because our universities, again, all were established by the British, our education system is very similar to the British system and our healthcare system. Now, the internship, again, is 1 year. It's full 12 months in Ireland. Then you can move into your specialist training or the general pathway. So the specialist training is you want to become a surgeon, for example, and that can take a minimum of 5 years after your internship. Now, when you move through the basic professional training and the higher specialist training, you are a doctor in the hospitals, you are getting paid a salary. I suppose you are obviously moving through the professional pathways of medicine, but you're a medical student for 5 years. And then you start your registration, takes 1 year, and then you can complete your registration with the Medical Council of Ireland when you do your internship. And you can do your internship in Ireland. It's a separate application process, but over the last 4 years, all international students who applied for their internship in Ireland were accepted. So it looks very positive at the moment. I might just take 1 more minute, if that's okay. So I think I'll finish on this, just the entry requirements. The entry requirements are very similar to the UK. So minimum of 3 A-levels. Must have chemistry, and biology is recommended. So I think nearly identical to what Sam and Elko said in terms of A-levels. Again, to reiterate, there's no separate medical admissions test. So the focus for your kids would be the A-levels, AAA. Now, if they want to get into the more competitive universities like Trinity College Dublin and UCD, then really they would need a combination of A stars and A's. Trinity College Dublin and UCD, University College Dublin, are the most competitive universities. And then UCC, University College Cork, and University of Galway, we do see students with 3 A's getting accepted into those universities. So look, I think I'll finish there. You can have my contact details and follow up with me at a later stage. So look, thank you very much, and thank you for your attention. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer as well. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
You mentioned that after finishing the school in Ireland, you have options to go out of Ireland, like US or other countries. And in that case, as Dr. Jay mentioned, that they need to take another exam, or it's like a sharing license program, something like that.
Yeah, so the degree would be accepted, but it really depends on what country. So, for example, this year, so US. So this year, in fact, we had 2 students, one from Singapore, a Singaporean student, and an Indian student actually who was at Bangkok Patana. So those 2 students graduated this year in Ireland, or maybe it was last year, in fact. And they got accepted to a medical internship program in Ireland, but they also wanted to go to the US. So with the US, you need to start your US MLEs, and it's the US medical licensing exam. So every student needs to take that, even if you're graduated from a US medical school. And those students started their US MLE in year 3 or year 4. It's a 3-part exam, step 1, step 2, and step 3. They successfully passed that, and then they got offered residencies in the US. In fact, the largest group of international students on all Irish medical schools come from Canada and the US. So there's a very strong connection between Ireland and the US. So, it's many students that are non-US citizens will also take that pathway. So, with Malaysians, Singaporeans, Indian students like to take the US MLE as well and have that option. So they apply for Ireland just to make sure that they get their internship in Ireland, and then also apply to the US. And then some students will weigh up their options. What internship do they get in Ireland? What residency in the US? And then based on, I suppose, the opportunity and their interests, they will choose. Some will choose the US, some will choose Ireland. But yeah, it's a very proven pathway, the US for Irish graduates.
Sorry, I have a friend who wrote a book about transitioning from going to a UK medical school into the US MLE, the US pathway. I will forward that book to Samantha, and then you can be passed on. But essentially, the UK and Irish medical schools are certified in US and Canada, but the licensing exam still has to be taken by everyone who is a doctor there.
Students can shorten their total period of studying because in US they need to finish 4 years of undergraduate, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, in Ireland and the UK, so we would offer 5-year undergraduates, so they can go straight from high school, from A levels into year 1, instead like the US where you need to do pre-med. So you only need to do 5 years in the UK and 5 years in Ireland, and then you can go into your residencies. So that's why, in fact, Ireland attracts so many US citizens, because they know.
They save like about 4 years.
Yeah, exactly. They can save a lot of time. And they're, the UK and Irish medical schools are well respected in the US as well, and Canada, and all over the world. So there was one of the questions really about advantages of the UK, but I think Ireland would, a lot of the advantages that are in the UK would be in Ireland as well, in terms of recognition globally. That, in the leading hospitals all over the world, they'd have graduates from the UK and Ireland.
I don't know whether my understanding is correct or not. For the medical license in Ireland, students don't have to do medical sit for exam for the medical license in Ireland. Is it right?
Yeah, so so we would have in Ireland, the final year exams are effectively your exams that allow you to graduate in Ireland. So you'll have final year exams in your 5th year, and then that allows you to start your registration with the medical council, and then you need to do your internship year, and when your internship year is complete, you need to get a certificate of experience, and then you can complete your registration. Now, I think in the UK they're introducing the MLA. Is that right? Is there in the UK? Are they introducing a new exam that students need to complete?
There's always a new exam.
Yeah. Okay.
Somewhere.
Yeah. So they're obviously the UK might be slightly different.
Once after you finish your medical schools, there will be So if you wanted to get into, after your foundation training, you want to get into medical specialties and surgical specialties, you would have to, excuse me, you would have to take an exam, which is a general medical knowledge exam, which will give you a point, which rank you into the medical application process before you even get interviewed into either medicine or surgery. Once you're in medicine or surgery, there's 2 or 3 more exams to take before you finish your initial sort of core surgical training or core medical training. And then to become a consultant at the end of your training, there's also another 2 or 3 more exams. Each of them costs about £700 to £1,000 per exam, per attempt. And most people will take 2 or 3 attempts. So the exam doesn't stop until you're 45.
Thank you. I think what we've learned is that life is a lifelong exam from all the presentations. I just now want to finish off with what you can actually now do practically to help your children if they're interested in a career in medicine. We already heard that it should really come from your children, the interest, because they will need to take all of these exams and they will need to be the doctor and have, you know, the advantages, disadvantages, stresses, delights of actually being a doctor. So what you can do to help is really talk to them about the careers, about the career choices. Encourage them to do wider reading, to look at different health websites, to read books about what it is like to be a doctor, to go and work experience. If you've got doctor friends, to talk to them what actually the realities are of being a doctor. So these are all the things that you can help them with now. Ask them to keep a journal of reflections, which will help them when they then come to actually start the application process. So they can actually look back, what have they done, what skills, what experiences have they gained already, which they can put into the application. We've already talked about that. What are the advantages and disadvantages of becoming a doctor? You know, it's a great career, but it's also really tough. So it's really rewarding, but also emotionally challenging. And these are just some websites we recommend for you to maybe look at, and we will send all out the information out as well. There's also one more thing I wanted to point out. There's a link on about studying medicine in Europe. So there's also other countries such as Poland, Czech Republic, where students are now going to study. They're slightly cheaper and also recognized. So that might be a good link to broaden out even further beyond UK, Ireland, Thailand, Australia. The reason why I didn't have a US slide in there because you can't study US directly, or you can't study medicine in the US directly. So you have to do a pre-med course. But that's it from us. I know we ran over a little bit, but thank you so much for coming. We'll be here now to answer any questions. And I would also appreciate if you could fill in the feedback form that we have so we can improve on these sessions. But thank you very much. We'll switch that off now and then we'll take some questions. Thank you.